this is, in my first early days, really, I'd traveled around and watched lots of tournaments. And there's this kid that was playing in this tournament called Jerry Tuwai. And when he had the ball in attack, it was all about fun, doing things outrageously. He had amazing footwork and vision. He was ridiculous. But when there was hard work to be done or had to defend, no chance. You wouldn't see him, hands in pockets, walking around, waiting for somebody to get the ball back to him so he could do his thing. And it was the same in training. So we'd be doing this stuff in the sand dunes because I got him into the national squad training. After seeing him, I could see that he wasn't the finished product, but he had something that no one else did. We get sprinting these dunes, and when you come back to the bottom, there's a lot of bushes. And one of the times, he would be hiding in the bush and thinking that, he could perhaps I could ignore the fact that he was hiding there for a couple of runs and he'd get away with it. But you see his arm poking out and carry him, finish off the training session. And I took him then back. I said, right, let me drive you home and have a chat at talanoa, they say in Fiji, with your mum and dad, just to see if we can help you become your best version. I went in kind of words like that. And so I drove him back, and Jerry lived in a settlement in Suva, in the capital. So, it's not all sand and sunshine and coconut trees. A lot of the people in Fiji live in the interior in pretty poor areas. And there's not many dangerous parts of Fiji, but where he lived was one of those. And he lived in a place called Newtown. In fact, he played in the Olympic final, and after the Olympic final, a couple of German journalists interviewed him and said, it must have been a lot of fun to grow up playing with your mates on the beach with a coconut. And he took his shoes and socks off and showed all the scars on the bottom of his feet and said, I learned how to play rugby on a traffic roundabout. And we went to that traffic roundabout because his mum and dad's house is next to it. And it's 2 rooms. It was a corrugated shed. His mum and dad sleep in one room and everything else in the other room. And I don't think I think they had a long drop at the time, and they didn't have a generator. So no electricity, no running water in the house. And I saw his mum and dad and said, look, your son's super talented, but he doesn't understand about consistent behaviours, and we're never going to get the best out of him. He's not going to play for Fiji. And how can you help? And they said, well, when he was, 13 or 14, I think he left school. He went to dive for fish in Bouva Bay, spear fish with his dad. They'd catch the fish and he'd sell them on the side of the road, early morning. And he'd go home when he'd sold the fish. And, immediately, I thought, well, he's not afraid to work hard. That wasn't the problem. He hadn't connected the benefit of training to performing. And then his mum said when he was 16, he came and saw them and said, I want to be a rugby player. This is my dream. And his mum and dad didn't say, look, you've got to continue to do what you're doing and sell fish and provide for the rest of the family and your 5 brothers and sisters. They went without food, his mum and dad, for a week. They got the cheapest pair of football boots they could get in the only sports shop in Suva, in J.R. White's. They sat him down a week later. They gave him his left boot, said, this is your knife. They gave him his right boot and said, this is your fork, and said, this is what you're going to use to put food on the table for us. And then they backed his dream. They gave him his why, and he had knife and fork written underneath his boots when he played in the Olympic final. It was a massive moment for me because, immediately I understood what was really important and valuable for them, connected to their why, connected to the people around that I could then use to help him, get to the point that he would be self-sufficient. He needed to get some good habits. So I'd tell his mum and dad, exactly when training was, or exactly when he should be home, all those sort of things that I probably shouldn't be having to tell a 24-year-old to do.